Hello and welcome to the Zing Revenue Show. With me today is John Sheridan of myREGION.au. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank
And
you.
it's
Nice
great
to.
to have you with us today, all the way from sunny Queensland.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, John. Maybe you could tell us a little bit of about yourself in a way that isn't the usual thing. So what I mean by that is I usually like to have a little icebreaker first. So um, if you could tell us what is your favorite make and model of car and color of the car, if you had, if budget was an option, what would it be and why?
Um, well, I'm not really interested in cars, to
Oh,
be honest.
whoops.
I worked in advertising for 20 years, and one of my clients was Ford. So,
Nice.
when I worked on Ford, then obviously Fords were my favourite car. And
Yeah, nice.
but,
And,
but
and, and what? Sorry.
basically, I just see a car as a way of getting around, and that's it. I'm not too bothered beyond that, really.
Sure.
I've
A
driven.
functionalist.
Yep, absolutely. When I worked on Ford, I had a Ford Sierra 4x4 at the time,
Nice. Nice.
which was a nice car, but that's a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice car. Let's see. We're okay. And what color would that Ford be?
It was white.
Ah, white. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Since we're on the topic of advertising, which is fascinating because I hailed also from the advertising background. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, how you got started, and the highs, the lows, and so on.
Yeah, well, I worked on advertising in London, and
Nice.
I was headhunted out of London to work for J. Water Thompson in New Zealand. Uh, I was in New Zealand for 3 years. I liked it so much, I decided to stay. So I went through I worked for a few more multinationals as a creative director, and
Nice.
then I moved to Australia in 1990.
Yep.
And then I could see that advertising was going to run head into digital revolution.
Yeah.
The digital revolution was basically going to destroy advertising in the way that I'd enjoyed it because of the proliferation of channels. So I thought, well, I better get my head around that. So I spent the 1990s really getting my head around digital to test what I thought I'd learned. I wrote a manuscript
Yep.
going digital, which explained the digital revolution to small business.
Wow.
That then was given to somebody in Telstra to read, and as a
Nice.
result as a result of them reading that, we got invited in to talk about digital revolution and how we could help Telstra explain it to their customers, and that
Right.
and that and that's what started our business back in 2000. Because
Okay.
Telstra gave us money to go around the country,
Yeah.
interview businesses,
Hmm.
and then we started doing research. We started looking at how businesses were using technology in depth, and
Yes.
that rolled on and on and on, year after year. We did more and more research until
Yeah.
we completed 50,000 surveys
Wow.
of small to medium businesses across Australia, which is more than
That's
anyone's
cool.
ever done.
Yes.
And it gave us very good insights into the way that the digital revolution was impacting
Yeah.
business, and that's really what led to where we are today, because we had so much knowledge and information that we realized we had to share it. We couldn't just sit on it. It
Sure.
would be the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
So so I got a call out the blue in about 10 years ago now, saying, John, all this research you've done, can you turn it into action? And I said yes. So we ended up running an event program in a number of cities across Australia,
Hmm.
which we didn't run the events. I got systems integrators, web services,
Yeah.
and voice services to actually to deliver the events,
Okay.
and we videoed them all. And that's what led me to realise the power of video as a way of explaining, what's going on. So
Yes.
that so we had hundreds of videos and we did lots of events. And
Yes.
then I thought, well, Australia is a big place.
Yeah.
So it's got a small population, but the only way to share knowledge effectively in
Yes.
Australia is
Yeah.
virtually, because
Yes.
otherwise the cities always get everything, and the
Yes.
bush, the
Correct.
bush and the regions get nothing.
Correct.
So we built the first platform roughly 10 years ago
Mhm.
to share all of the knowledge and information and content that we've got.
Right.
And that initial platform led to where we are today with the
Okay.
myREGION platform.
Right. Okay.
So that's the background.
So my region was formerly known as
It was known as Red Toolbox because
Red Toolbox. Yep.
Red stood for Regional Economic Development Toolbox.
Nice. Right.
But in the end, we
Yeah.
realised that people always think about where they live and what they do. So we
Yeah.
changed the name to be more personal.
Yes.
So we customised the platform to reflect the interests of 50 regions across Australia,
Yes. Yep.
19 industry sectors, and
Right.
400 business categories,
Wow.
which we've analysed in depth.
Yes.
And I don't think anyone else has ever done that either.
Mhm.
And then we realised that we could use that platform
Yep.
to share knowledge effectively across
Yeah.
the whole nation.
Okay.
So you can almost think of the platform almost like a farm management system for an economy, because farm management systems manage space with
Yes.
paddocks.
Yep.
We manage regions.
Yeah.
Farm management systems manage crops and animals.
Yes.
We manage businesses within
Yes.
the framework,
Yeah.
and then farm management systems help people improve the capability of their crop or their animals.
Yeah.
And so the platform's designed specifically
Yeah.
to help people build knowledge.
Mhm.
And so what we've done recently, as you would have noticed, is we've built two,
Yes.
two sections into the platform.
Yeah.
One is specifically for knowledge diffusion.
Yes.
And the way we're doing that is we noticed that the 40 research-based universities in Australia all publish information regularly into their
Yeah.
YouTube channels,
Yes.
but nobody visits them, and nobody is going to visit 40 YouTube channels.
Sure.
Just so what we've done is every 2 months we visit every university YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and we find the latest material that they publish that will be of
Yeah.
interest of business,
Yeah.
and we post it into the knowledge diffusion section of the platform.
Nice.
And
Nice.
we've done a similar thing for schools,
Yeah.
because schools and students and parents and teachers don't really understand the way the world has changed.
Sure.
So, most schools and parents still want little Johnny or little Janet to become a doctor or a lawyer or an
Yeah.
accountant or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the world is very different. So what
Yes.
we've done
Yeah.
in another part of the platform is we've added a section in that helps students and
Yeah.
parents and teachers
Yeah.
better understand their options and opportunities. So that's in a new section of the platform that we've just updated.
Nice.
And
So on
yeah,
the
correct.
site, that's which part is that?
Well, diffusion is the knowledge diffusion section,
Uh huh.
and the bit next to it where it says study options,
Yes.
that is
For the
freely
students.
available.
Right.
Yeah, freely
Content.
available to students,
Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
teachers, and anybody can go in there, choose
Wonderful.
a subject they're interested in, see what the
Yeah.
universities are doing at the moment,
Yes.
and then select a university, institute, or centre of excellence where they might want to go and study
Yeah.
their subject of interest.
Yeah.
Now that's
That.
something that government should have done but didn't, so we've done it
Sure.
for them.
Sure. Sure. And it's wonderful that you represent the private sector to bring this sort of implementation
Yeah.
to Australians. Yeah.
Well, the point is that the digital revolution ultimately joins everything up. It joins up government, academia, and
Yeah.
business. And so we deliberately built the platform to, in effect, be like a three-legged stool.
Yeah.
Something that supports
Yes.
academia,
Yeah.
government, and business working together
Yeah.
for the good of the country. Because the trouble with Australia is it's divided up into 8 states and territories,
Yes.
450 councils, 50 regions, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
40 universities, 2,000 high schools, all of which compete with each other.
Yes. Yeah.
So if we're really going to get value out of the digital revolution, we've got to learn to collaborate. We've got to learn to cooperate. We've got to learn to share. And the platform's designed specifically to support that sort of activity. I mean, the platform itself, and we've had interest from other countries. We could build a New Zealand version of this tomorrow. We could do a
Wow.
Canadian version.
Sure.
We could do a UK version. We
Yeah.
could do,
Yeah.
because every country has regions, every country
Yes.
has
Yes.
sectors,
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
every country has a need to change and improve its business practices across its industry sectors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
all have that in common.
Right. Right. That is absolutely wonderful, and it looks like this website is a treasure trove
Yeah, I
for
mean,
yeah.
it's the trouble with all these things is, you know, there is so much confusion out there at the moment in the world at large, not
Yeah.
politically and
Yes.
socially and
Yeah.
environmentally,
Yeah.
and also from an information perspective. So there's so much fake news and hype
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever that's being promoted on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Sure.
So we've deliberately decided that the platform has to be evidence-based.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the platform's not about opinion; it's about evidence. So,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
everything that goes into it from the universities is
Yeah.
something the universities have decided to
Yeah.
publish,
Yeah.
and so we use that. So we don't make that decision. The university has made that decision.
Sure.
We just aggregate it all and put it all in one place.
Yeah.
So what we're
Yeah.
doing is we're
Yeah.
providing evidence-based information
Yeah.
to people who need to have evidence-based information,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
not opinion.
Sure. Sure.
Because
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
mean,
that that that's not helpful. So
no,
you have the blessings of the universities, all these universities, to aggregate their content
well,
on your site, and
all of their content is published into YouTube, right?
yeah, sure,
So
right,
it's all
yeah,
in the public domain.
right, yes, yeah,
All we're doing is providing links to the material
yes,
that they've already published.
okay, yeah,
So, but we're doing it with a holistic view of what
absolutely,
it is that's needed, because
absolutely, yeah,
because nobody else is doing this.
yes,
Government
yeah,
hasn't done it. The
yeah,
universities won't do it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
somebody has to do it in a
yes,
holistic, joined up way.
yeah, yeah,
There's it's a bit like a shop. If you go in a shop, you want all of the
yes,
brands to be on offer so you can buy
yeah,
you
yeah,
can buy what you want to buy. And so
sure,
so we're just using the material the universities have already
yeah,
created that's of high value, but nobody knows it's there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we know
yeah,
it's there. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
we're providing links for it because
yeah,
it's incredibly valuable material. And at the
yeah,
moment it's
sure,
just
sure, yes,
it's
yes,
lost.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think it's valuable because many of the students who are finishing year 12 have absolutely no idea what the options are. They just follow their peers
Yep.
and or whatever their parents or teachers tell them. And I mean, they have no idea, for example, lobster farming or anything of that sort.
No. That's right.
It's wonderful that you have this place, where they could see the specialists in the education, and then I mean, you've essentially helped them cut down their time, to find out
Yeah.
all this career options. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, all this material's out there anyway.
yeah,
Everything's out there
sure,
on the internet,
sure,
but
sure,
but but people don't know it's there.
yeah,
You,
yeah,
businesses don't know what they don't know. So
absolutely, absolutely,
so what we've done is we've curated that information.
yes,
Because
yeah,
the Productivity Commission in Australia says very
yes,
clearly that
yeah,
knowledge diffusion is
yeah,
a simple and straightforward way
mhm,
of increasing productivity across 2.6 million small businesses in Australia.
yes,
So that's a statement they made in 2022.
yeah,
And it got me thinking, and I thought, yeah, okay, that's absolutely right. But how do we do that? So the knowledge diffusion section in the platform
Yeah.
is how we do that. That's how we can share information across
Sure. Sure.
everybody who doesn't know what they don't know. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it makes it easy for them. Then all they've got to do is go in and they can see what's going on in each of the sectors that they operate in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they can be up to date.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's great. And I think it's also a lovely snapshot of the diversity of Australia, rather than just thinking it in the narrow terms of digging dirt from the ground and
Yeah, yeah,
financial services and so on.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Australia is very, very rich in minerals. There's no two ways about that. It's one of the richest countries in the world from that perspective, and that's what keeps us afloat. But Australia is also incredibly rich in intellect and knowledge. And
Yes.
if you go to any of the universities in the country, they're just full of smart people,
Sure.
brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that resource is not being mined and delivered and shared in the way that we do with minerals. We can do it with minerals. We're
Yeah.
highly effective at doing that. We need to
Yeah.
do the same thing with our intellect,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Australia should be one of the richest countries in the world. I mean, it is from a
Absolutely.
mineral point of view,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it could be so much more
Yes. Yes.
interesting
Yes.
than
Yeah.
it is at the moment. We have
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
capacity.
Yeah. It's fascinating that if you look at it from a big picture perspective and you do very simple broad-based mathematics, that turns out to be true. Per capita income is higher than many countries. However, when you drill down, right down to individual towns and suburbs, you find that that's not necessarily the case. In fact, we have so many people who are struggling right now with the cost of living crisis, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And that income view is illusionary anyway, because a lot of
yes,
that a lot
yeah,
of that is based on the value of housing in this country,
yeah,
which is
yeah, yeah,
which is super inflated. You
yes, yeah,
know, if you look at where we actually stand in terms of our economy, the real economy, the productive economy,
yeah,
then as we're now 105th in the world,
yes,
for economic complexity,
yeah,
because essentially, the primary thing that keeps the lights on in this country is selling iron ore and coal,
yes,
and everything else follows. We need to become a more complex society
yes, yes,
so that
yes,
we've got somewhere for our students and kids to go. When
correct.
they grow up, they go to university and they come out, they've got to be employed in a job
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fitting to their capability. At the moment,
that's
what
right.
happens
That's right. Yes,
at,
yeah,
at the moment, many of them are forced to leave the country and go offshore, because
yeah,
they
yeah,
just can't get those high
yeah,
value, high reward jobs that
right.
they want and need. So
Yes, yes, yes,
so we
correct. Yeah,
so we have to
yeah,
change what we're doing.
yes,
We have to really concentrate on rebuilding the economy
yeah,
in a more
yeah,
complex manner.
yeah, yeah. Like
And
what you describe as exporting our children and grandchildren.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Which is not what we want to do. We want to keep them here.
exactly.
The only way to do that is really to build more complexity into our economy. And
Yeah.
we have the means. We've got the intellect, we've got the capability. We just need the will.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. John, back to that nugget of gold, which is your 50K survey. What
Yeah.
were two of the outstanding things that stood out from your study?
Well, we did our 50,000 surveys are made up of lots and lots and lots of surveys that we did over 14 years, right?
Right.
And usually we did 2,000 at a time. So we did multiple surveys focusing on different
Wonderful.
things,
Wonderful.
and then we aggregated the data,
Yeah.
and so we were really looking at how businesses were using technology,
Sure.
uh, everything from mobile phones,
Yeah.
hardware, software,
Sure.
and we got people to rate the value of the products and services they use. So we ended up with a very, very clear picture
Yeah.
of uh, of the
Absolutely.
of the business benefit of all of these software tools that people were using,
Yes. Yes.
which put us in a very interesting position, because we were able then to see the impact of robotics.
Yeah.
Able to see the impact of AI. We are able to see
Nice.
the impact of drones,
Yeah.
and we're able to map very, very clearly and understand the impact of each of the business management tools that people use on a day-to-day basis. So one
Yeah.
of the things we're in the process of doing now is
Yeah.
really trying to make that information more freely available,
Sure.
so people can optimize what it is they do in their business in
Yeah.
terms of their choice
Yes.
for for the software tools that they use, and also to help them avoid the hype and nonsense that's being promoted by a lot of the large language model AI providers at the
Vendors. Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not, those things can be useful, but they're not as fundamentally useful as the basic software products that everybody uses on a day-to-day basis. Everything from the
Absolutely. Yeah.
financial management software, CRM
Yeah.
systems,
Yeah.
business management systems.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what keeps businesses operational on a day-to-day
Absolutely.
basis.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's wonderful. Now, I'd like to just hear your points of view further on AI, drones, and robotics, if you are able to, because like the world's been watching. For example, China, really up its ante
Oh
in
yeah,
all of these three fields. If we go onto YouTube, there are numerous coverage of the recent trade fairs in China, which are massive,
yep, yep,
and
yep,
and
yep,
they're so focused on, say, just one is on drones and the other is on EVs and so on.
yep.
So how do you think that provides inspiration for a dirt digging country like ours, to bootstrap and get our act going?
Well, I mean, the thing to remember is that we've probably got the most advanced mining companies in the world
Yeah.
operating out of Australia.
Yeah.
And those companies have always been incredibly innovative. They've always been looking for ways to become more efficient, more
Sure.
effective,
Yeah.
and to deliver, so Rio Tinto, BHP,
Yeah.
Anglo American, and so on, for
Yes.
years
Yeah.
have been using software. They've been using AI in exploration, in mining. They've been using automation. They've been
Yeah.
using drones. So I mean,
Yeah.
they've been applying all of the value of technology to
Yes.
everything
Yeah.
they do, from
Yeah.
digging ore out of the ground to shipping it out of the country.
Right.
So they are fantastic examples of how to use technology properly, and probably better than anybody else on the planet.
Sure.
So a lot of the offshoots of the activity that have come out of mining have then been applied in other areas.
Yeah.
So like off-road automation,
Right.
a lot of that activity was inspired by mining,
Okay.
but at the moment now, of course, can be applied in other areas
Sure.
like agriculture. It can be applied in energy,
Yeah.
maintenance,
Yeah.
defence,
Yeah.
space, a whole bunch of other areas that sort
Sure.
of come out
Sure.
of this. So
Sure.
so but we're not that far behind in a lot of ways. We have the knowledge. We're just not applying it in a sensible manner to every single sector and
Yeah.
activity that we could be
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
and which is partly why the platform is quite a useful tool, because
Absolutely.
effectively, if
Yeah.
you look at the diffusion section, then
Sure.
we've taken all of that knowledge and information,
Yeah.
and we've related it to each of the seven key industry sectors that
Yeah. Yeah.
Australia's trying to do something about
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of growth and improvement.
Sure.
You
Sure.
know,
Um, One of the things I note with China, for example, is their abundance of cheap energy. And we used to have access to that until we started
yep,
exporting our gas, and um, our renewable projects are still very at the infant stage, and all this talk about nuclear has become a very political issue.
Yep.
What do you have to say about the importance of cheap energy? To ensure that technology, and our data centers have the
Yeah.
available energy that it needs, despite all these world wars. And right now we
Yeah.
see Iran, Israel, having a fight. Yeah,
Yep. Well, I think the thing to remember with China is that China is in a position to be able to do anything and everything that it wants to do,
sure.
and it does, because
Yes.
central
Yeah.
command and control means that decisions can be made that, rather than just do anything and everything selectively, that they
Yeah.
just do everything that they can possibly think of. So
Sure.
so
Sure.
China's got whole cities dedicated to one
Yeah.
industry sector, like wine or
Sure.
toys
Yeah.
or whatever. We're not in a
Yeah.
position to be able to do that. I mean,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
so what we have to do, we have to be a lot more selective. We have to be a lot more intelligent. What
Yes.
we really need to do in this country is take the same approach to
Yeah.
industry development as
Yeah.
we do with sport
Yeah.
in our sport development. So if you
Yes.
think, Australia is fourth in the world for gold medals at the Olympics,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
not an accident.
Yes.
That's happened because we organise our sports organisations in a very
Yeah.
definitive way. We're the Australian
Yes.
Institute of Sport,
Yes.
where gold medal winners are selected and groomed and helped and supported, to fulfil their goals. Now, we need to do exactly the same thing with our industry. So at the moment, yes, we may have 7 industry sectors that have potential and possibility.
Yeah.
But the missing link at the moment is we need the Australian Institute of Commercialisation and Innovation
Sure.
that then takes the key industries where we've got world, where we're worldly competitive,
Yeah.
and we do have those industries,
Yeah.
and we support them so that
Yeah.
in effect we start to create gold medal winners in this country.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
energy is just one element in
Yeah.
terms of what we need to support, building gold medal winners with our
Yeah.
industry sectors and
Yeah.
categories.
Yeah.
The key is to do everything. We've got to start thinking holistically. you
Yes.
know we tend to think, just we keep divide. Australia's a very divided country in so many ways.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
We're divided into all of these different states and territories and whatever, but we're also very divided in attitude. We need to start
Yes.
thinking holistically,
Yeah.
and to do that, we need some sort of vision and goal in terms of where it is that we want to be, where we
Yeah.
want to go,
Yeah.
where do we want to channel this mineral and intellectual wealth that we've got. You know, what are the gold medal prospects that we have to actually be competitive,
Yeah.
with the rest of the world in the 21st century?
Yeah.
They are
Absolutely.
there, that
Yeah.
they're all there, but
Yeah.
what we need to do is really nurture them
Yes.
and work on them and with them in the same way we do with our sports people.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do it with the sportsmen and women. We can do it with
Yeah.
businesses as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
don't think like that, but we need to think like that. So I
Yeah.
mean, so if you think of my region in a funny way, it's almost like a virtual institute of innovation and commercialization, or it
Yes.
could be.
Absolutely. Yes.
It, it,
It's
it could be.
tangible.
It is tangible. I mean, there's so much discussion goes on in this country. We're very good at creating reports.
Yeah.
We generate reports week by week, month by
Yeah.
month, and then
Sure.
we don't do anything about it.
Yes. Yes.
So I mean, rather than talk about it, we've
Yeah.
we've we've built the platform. We
Yeah.
continue to develop the platform,
Yeah.
and almost on a month by month basis, it changes and evolves, and it becomes something a little bit more
Yeah.
than what it was. And that's the way
Yes.
we want it to be. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's a platform.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
designed to support.
Yeah.
It's designed to support industry, to support
Yeah.
schools, to support
Yeah.
regions.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah. 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 Wonderful. Uh, how has government and private businesses responded to my region?
It's a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, we put everything together again last year because
Okay.
what had happened with Red Toolbox is that we began to work with CSIRO
Yes.
and high schools
Yep.
in terms of trying to help them with their study and work choices.
Sure.
Then COVID came along and
Oh.
stopped that. So
Oh.
then we got a call from Austrade saying, John, can we use the platform to showcase Australian exporters to Japan.
Wonderful.
And we said yes, so we did
Yes.
that. And then,
Wonderful.
so things have just evolved, and
Yeah.
we're responding to the market in the way that it's changed. So last year we decided to put everything together in one platform and rename
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
that's why it's now called myREGION.
myREGION.
Uh,
Yeah.
and what we're doing now is we're letting it evolve in response to need. So there's a new government
Yeah.
with with some new ministers,
Yes.
uh, and they're sort of ready to do something significant. This is there's a good chance they'll be in for 2 terms with a bit of luck, which means we can have a bit of dedicated focus on
Yeah. Yeah.
rebuilding industry in Australia. So
Sure. Sure.
the,
Yeah.
so the platform couldn't have evolved at a better time. It's ideally placed to
Yeah.
support whatever Minister Ayres wants to do, and
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
as well as support schools and regions and all the other things that it's designed to do.
Yeah.
So I think big opportunity. I think going forward, but as with all things, it's just something
Yes.
that we need to get on with. I mean,
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
the platform's ready for use. It can be
Yeah.
used. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we're willing to work with anybody and everybody
Yeah. Yeah.
who wants to use it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Put your head down and get to work. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, and now, when we talk about students, we're probably talking about the older cohort, the year 11s, year 12s, who are
Yep.
looking into university. Um, I, I know that, for example, in places like India and even China, they start teaching, for example,
Yep.
AI, to their kids at very young ages, right, even at preschool.
Yep.
So, how do you think we can change our mindset, so that we can be competitive with this area? Because, I mean, India and China each have over 1 billion people each.
Yep.
That's an enormous amount of engineers, and both countries are very focused on engineering.
Yep.
Um, and in US, we've seen the clamp down on universities, and the defunding of the state education department. So, in the context of all this, and with a long-term view, mid-term to long-term view for the future, how do you think Australia can position itself, and change our mindset?
Well, I mean, the thing is, there are other countries as well. We've got Indonesia on our doorstep, with 250 million uh, people who've got a very different attitude
Yeah,
to education than us. I mean, one of our partners
yeah,
has, we're working with partners in Indonesia who are focused on technical vocational education training.
sure.
Here we've got TAFE,
Yes,
where
yeah,
but their focus is very much on technical vocational education training,
yeah,
and a lot of that is about helping their school students, really understand opportunity not just in universities, but in terms of HVAC and robotics and
sure.
electric vehicles
Yeah,
and
yeah,
anything and everything where
yes,
technology
yeah,
is bringing improvement
yes,
to workforce
yeah,
really.
yeah,
So we've got to include TVET as well as we include universities, and we've got to bring them closer together.
sure.
And I understand that the one supports the other. It's all well and good to build robots and sell them, but we need to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
maintain and look after them and service them
yes, absolutely.
just as
Yes,
effectively. And so, we've got to take a more holistic view to education. And you're quite right. Yeah, of
yeah,
course, we've got to give students access
yeah,
to platforms a lot earlier. I mean,
yeah, sure.
what we're intending with the platform is that people can
Yeah,
access it year
yeah,
9, 10, 11, and 12,
yeah,
or whenever they want. I mean, it's free.
yes, yes, yeah,
Anybody can go to the study options page and
yeah,
view the material.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I know even from my watching my grandkids, in terms of their ability to absorb and take on information and be involved and interested in technology, it starts incredibly early. So obviously it needs support the whole way, but
yes,
it also needs focus. I mean,
yeah,
once again, as I say, we're very good at creating silos in Australia. We've got
Sure.
educational silos. Every high
Yes.
school is a
Yeah.
silo.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got, and of course they're busy. They're preoccupied with fulfilling the curriculum and doing what they do every day.
Yeah.
But they've got to look out the windows. They've got to
Yeah.
realise where
Yeah.
all these children going.
Yeah.
What's the objective of this? People have got to take a more holistic, a bigger view of
Correct.
what it is that they do every day. And unfortunately, we've got too much narrow minds, narrow vision,
Yeah.
narrow thinking,
Yeah.
short-term
Yeah.
thinking.
Sure.
And you're quite right. We need to be thinking 20 years, 30 years, 100 years out. I mean, China's got a 100-year vision.
Yeah.
Singapore in 2000 had a Singapore 2020
Yes.
SME plan,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they and they
Absolutely.
and they delivered it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we we do things. We're stop start. We're like
Yeah.
schizophrenic grasshoppers. We jump
Yes.
all over the
Yes.
place,
Yeah.
and
Reactive.
we get
Yeah.
nowhere. We need
Yeah.
to have a
Yeah.
vision for where we want to go, what we want to do, and how we're going to get there. We've got the
Sure.
capability. That's the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
frustrating thing in the world is it is possible. We just need the vision, the direction, and the
Yeah.
inclination, and the
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. 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 So we've seen government, express interest and possibly using the my region as a trade showcase. Um, uh, what would you say to big businesses? Like the big supermarkets and the big banks and the big mining companies, all these big companies that hire people. How would they, be a part of the solution to drive this sort of mindset? That I mean, it's also in their interest as well. To have a skilled workforce
Yeah, it
and
is. It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
I mean, from a mining industry point of view, definitely the miners are interested in making mining uh, a bit sexier, i.e., somewhere where people can see that they can use their intellect and their skills and the ability. It's not just about getting your hands dirty and, you know,
sure,
going underground. There are lots of
yeah,
opportunities in mining.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the same in defense industry. It's the same in a lot of our industries. So,
yes, yes,
yes, there is. I'm not so sure about the banks. I'm not sure about the others because those guys tend not to be as visionary as they should be.
sure,
And we don't have the big corporates in this country that a lot of other countries around the world do. We don't have the
yeah,
big leading. We've got a few leading businesses in technology like Tech One, Atlassian, Canva,
yeah,
etc. that are here. But yeah, a lot of the bigger corporates, they've got to understand that in some way it
yes,
should be part of their public. And this is a hard thing, really, because obviously most businesses are set up really to do what they do every day, make a
yeah,
profit, report to shareholders,
yes,
end
yes,
of story.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and some of them have foundations where they sort of reach out and try and do more things. But if they just go up a little bit higher and just look at the need and the requirement of the country, the country that we
yes,
live in,
yeah,
we actually need corporate and government and academia to be working together
yeah,
as a team, really, as a team that's working for the the betterment of Australia, because
sure,
we all live here, we've all got kids and
yeah,
grandkids, and
yeah,
we want the country to be what it
yeah,
could be,
yeah,
not what it currently is. And the only way that's going to
yes,
happen is by
yeah,
people actually putting their hand up and saying, okay,
yeah,
yeah, well, I want to help, I want to do something.
yeah,
I mean, if you look at what we've got in the diffusion section there and in the
yes,
study option stuff, a lot of that
yeah,
material is coming out of universities. But
sure,
there's also incredibly valuable material that's coming out of other organisations as well. So
yep,
I've
yeah,
just put a whole bunch of links to stuff from the ACS Foundation, the
wonderful,
Australian
yeah,
Computer Society Foundation. So we've
sure,
got their
sure,
material.
yes,
Now we need the equivalent from MBN. We need the
yeah,
equivalent from
yeah,
Telstra. We need the equivalent
yes,
from
yes,
from Ozpost. We need the
yeah,
equivalent from the
yeah,
corporates who really
yes,
have got a vested interest in
yeah,
Australia becoming more
yeah,
more productive. Same with the big miners. Same
yes,
with all of the companies who
yeah,
really should have some sort of input into where it is that we're going, because we shouldn't just leave that to government. It really has
Yeah.
to be a collaborative effort. It's got to be
Sure.
government, corporate, and
Yes.
academia
Yes.
working together hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Um, Last question, I suppose, for this interview is, I mean, universities feature, in your website.
Yep,
Now we've seen two forces that have been allayed against, our university. First of all, is this, quota on international students,
yep,
and the second is, a quiet complaint about the declining quality of the uh, educators, and the sorry
yep,
the quality of the education system, especially since COVID. Because many of them were forced to go remote. Now, of course, we are
yep,
back to in person, but and also there's this talk about alternative uh, institutions coming up, like for example the Chartered Professional Accountants CPA Association, which positions itself
yep,
as an alternative, a cheaper alternative, to having a tertiary education, to get into, to get a job, and to have an income. Um,
yep.
any thoughts on what I've just shared?
Yeah, I mean, Australia's universities have not been funded properly for many years.
Right.
And one of the problems is if you defund an institution, then the institution has to try and find some way, to
Sure.
continue to pay for what it does
Of
on a
course.
day-to-day
Yes.
basis,
Yeah.
which is why obviously every university in Australia sort of reached out to international students. So there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
but but at the same time, it created an imbalance,
Right.
and when you
Yeah.
don't have enough funding in a university,
Yeah.
then you reduce the number of academic staff, and therefore the onus on that administrative work gets
Yeah.
thrown on the teaching staff, which means
Yeah.
they've got less time,
Yeah.
to give to their students,
Yeah.
and so it becomes you create diminishing return. By pulling funding out of universities, you end up undermining, the very reason why universities are there in the first place, which is a bad thing. So, and that leaves room for all sorts of other things to sort of come in. So
Yeah.
yes, of course, we've got the impact of AI, and we've got all those other things, but they need to
Sure.
be taken into
Yeah.
they need to be taken into account in a way that they're seen as adjuncts to teaching.
Mhm.
Because every kid is born with natural curiosity,
Yeah.
and an interest in
Yeah.
the world,
Yeah.
and the whole purpose of education is to continue to draw out, that
Yes.
curiosity,
Yeah.
and to provide materials to allow that curiosity to grow. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
education means. It means to draw out,
Yeah.
educare,
Yes.
from the
Absolutely.
Latin.
Absolutely.
So that's something that we need to continue. I mean, it needs to continue right up to my age and beyond.
Oh, absolutely.
We
Yes.
can always
Learning
learn.
is lifelong.
So the key
Yeah.
here really is for government has to fund education properly. I mean, people complain about the amount of money that vice chancellors get paid, but that sort of misses the point, really. That universities
Yes. Yes.
need to be funded properly so they can
Yeah.
do everything they need to do,
Correct.
because the
Yeah.
universities are the engine room for
Yes.
intellectual building in this
Yeah.
country
Yeah.
that then
Yeah.
goes on, to fuel and
Yeah.
support every one of the businesses and
Yeah.
organizations and corporates that we have in this country.
Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
we've got to teach people to think, and AI has to very much be seen as an adjunct to that, not as a
Sure.
replacement for that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's a bit of a bit of an evolution and a revolution going on in
Yeah.
education. We understand
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and obviously we're challenged not just by what's happening in this country, but we're challenged by what the Indonesians are doing, and it's happening in the Philippines and Malaysia,
Yeah. Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
in China and India.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
we've got to lift our game right across the
Yes.
board,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's just one aspect of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. John, I said that was the last question. I fib. I'm sorry. Because I've got you on the show, I'm just going to pick your brains a little bit. Three other industries which, if I could have a quick, uh, uh, pick of your brain, so to speak, on. First of all, construction, because it's so huge. Secondly, healthcare, it's the biggest, such a
Yep.
massive employer, and
Yep.
thirdly, the agriculture sector.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah,
Okay. Construction. We build houses using trades,
yeah,
and trades effectively are medieval responses to the need to build things. So we have
sure,
carpenters and electricians and
yeah,
all these guys.
yeah,
It's the 21st century.
yeah,
We have, yes, absolutely. Of course, we should be giving all of our trades all of the equipment and skills and software support and technology support that we can. But we've got to shift our thinking about the way that we
yeah,
actually, in China, you can put up
yeah,
a house. You can build a house in 3 days or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In Texas, they're 3D printing suburbs.
Ah,
Here,
yes.
if
Yeah,
you
sure. Yeah,
if you look at the platform and you look under construction, you'll see all the videos I've put in of
yeah,
a company in Texas 3D printing houses at scale.
right.
We need to start building houses in factories. We've really got to get
Absolutely,
serious about this.
absolutely,
We've got a
absolutely.
huge problem in this country because the whole issue of construction
Yes, yes. Housing. Yeah.
and housing has been once again siloed into a nightmare.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything. The problem starts with the land release and zoning.
Mhm.
So obviously that is something that really that's a political issue.
Yeah.
But when it gets into the construction industry, then
Yeah.
obviously we've really got to move into the 21st century and
Yes. Yeah.
start mass producing houses at
Yes.
scale and
Yes. Yes.
putting them up in weeks rather than months.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's that.
Correct. Yeah.
In terms
Yeah.
of health,
Yes.
we need to. I mean, we could build a care economy version of the platform very easily and very quickly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's something that could support best practice in the care economy, because at the moment,
Sure. Yeah.
you've got organisations in healthcare, in hospitals, in disability services, in aged care, in
Yeah.
childcare,
Yeah.
right across the country,
Yeah.
all either funded by membership or funded by government, all in a competitive environment with big
Yeah.
turnover of workforce.
Yes.
So they're continually having to retrain.
Yeah.
They're continually having to renew what it is that they think they should be doing.
Yeah.
So we're not being efficient in terms of the way that
Yes.
we manage it. So
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
I said, we can build a care economy version of the platform very quickly
Yeah.
that would allow best practice to be
Yeah.
delivered right across the country, every
Yeah.
region,
Yeah.
every sector.
Yeah. Yeah.
We surveyed the not-for-profit sector every 2 years for 10 years, so we actually understand the sector very, very well,
Right.
and that's something that could be really useful.
Yes.
As far as and of
Yeah.
course, the hospitals and all the others are slowly but steadily using software and robotics and
Yes. Yes.
all these other
Yeah.
things to improve their
Yeah.
practice. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
most important thing is really in the care economy. We've really
Yeah.
got to lift our
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
best practice becomes the sort
Yeah.
of key there. As
Yeah.
far as agriculture is concerned, we are a mum and dad country. As far as
Yes.
agriculture is concerned,
Yeah. Yeah.
most farms are mum and
Yes.
dad and family
Yes.
farms.
Yes. Yes.
We do
Multi-generational. Yeah.
we do have a few big farms,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
at scale, but not many.
Yeah.
So the thousands and the tens of thousands of farmers in this country are mum and dad organisations right across the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and as much as they can, they are using software tools. I mean, at the moment, I'm going through the analysis of exactly which software tools they're using,
Sure.
etc., etc.
Yeah.
So and we do have we've got innovation in agritech. In terms of robotics with Swarm Farm, which
Yeah.
is a Queensland company that that delivers robotics into agriculture.
Lovely.
We've got a lot of innovation in this space, but once again, it needs aggregating.
Yeah.
If you look at the showcase section
Sure.
and you look at agribusiness, then you'll see that a lot of that stuff is mapped already in the
Beautiful.
platform.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
not something we're ignoring, but
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, there is an opportunity in
Yeah.
agriculture, which is a really
Yeah.
big picture opportunity,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
would be the national sharing of data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Very, very difficult thing to bring together because it
Yeah.
requires trust brokerage,
Sure.
and
Yes.
therefore the only person, the only organisation that could be trusted to do such a thing would be government,
Yes.
uh, and whether government would have the inclination, the skills, the will, or the ability
Yeah.
to do such a thing
Yeah. Yeah.
is open to question. And
Sure. Sure.
but
Sure.
but
Yeah.
but that could deliver real value if you think of a national data,
Yes.
sort of resource
Yeah.
that would allow information with everything related to farming, including
Yeah.
weather and
Yeah.
soil type, and to be
Yes. Yes.
shared and
Yeah.
access
Yeah. Yeah.
at a national level. That
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that could really increase
Yes.
productivity
Yes.
enormously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
it's not
mean,
going to happen. It's not going to happen unless a single trust broker takes
sure.
that
Yes. Yes.
on
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah,
Yeah. I can imagine, a farmer in Western Australia benefiting, from insights,
of
from
course.
someone up
Yeah,
north. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and methodologies. I mean, even, we did research a few years ago, and we were involved in different sectors of the agricultural industry, including cane farming. And when you get down to it, I mean, it's really interesting because
Sure.
when you get down to an individual farm,
Yeah.
or an individual cane farm, then
Yeah.
you get debate and discussion about how big the rows should be, and et
Yes.
cetera, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so the issues really go from the national and the universal right down to the individual business with its individual soil and its individual
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, you know water requirements and
Yes.
capabilities
Yes.
and so on
Yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but if we could just aggregate, if that data could be viewed
Yeah.
in a national manner,
Yeah.
and access
Yeah.
and viewed, I mean,
Yeah.
I, I just think there's a huge opportunity in
Correct.
Australia there
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
that we're not
Yeah.
really beginning to even look at yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that could also, benefit big mining companies or medium-sized mining companies who
Yeah,
might
the
not
two.
otherwise know, of all these requirements. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
mining and agriculture do work hand in glove, and they
Yeah.
need to work hand in glove
Yeah.
because
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of the
Yeah.
capabilities that come out of mining are
Yeah.
applicable in agriculture.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there can be data sharing,
Yeah. Yeah.
cross
Yeah.
sectorally,
Yeah. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well as just
Yeah.
within an industry
Yeah.
sector.
Yeah. and
But of
and I
course,
think, yeah, sorry, go on.
no, I'm just going to say, people are
Yeah.
very jealous of their data. People generate data; it's their data.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
They,
Yes.
it's valuable,
Yes.
but they don't want the value to be stolen and used by some
Correct. Correct.
big tech company.
Understandable. Yes, it's a very,
So
very natural reaction.
yeah, so the whole process of evolution in that area
Yeah.
needs to be managed very carefully, fairly, equitably. It's got to
Yeah.
be something that is
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
competition,
Yeah.
collaboration between natural competitors
Yeah.
is a real thing.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
software, it's something that can be managed in a fair and equitable way.
Yes. Yes.
Shared
Absolutely.
value is
Yeah.
the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, John. That's a whole bucket of insights there. Really appreciate, this eye-opening interview with you. And how can your listeners who want to uh, get in touch with you do so? What where can they find you?
Well, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, so I mean, they
Yes.
they can email me on LinkedIn. They can obviously they can send us a message through the platform,
Wonderful.
or whatever. I mean, I'm completely open to talking to anybody about anything, and I always have been.
Sure.
Because
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I realized years ago that we ended up generating so much information and insight that it would be a crime to just not share it, sort of universally with everybody, because it's really valuable. And
Oh yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
data when it gets to a certain size,
Yeah.
the the insights that get delivered
Yeah.
by large data sets are
Yeah.
huge, and
Yeah. Sure.
and I,
Yeah.
we're probably the only organisation that's ever done
Yeah.
that many surveys in depth
Yes. Yes.
of that
Correct.
many business
Yeah.
categories across the
Yeah.
whole of the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
why would you? Why
Yeah.
would you?
Correct. Yeah. 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 Like you said, data is valuable, and people are protective. But it's wonderful that you are making
Well,
this all
yeah,
available to your
I mean,
users and the general public. Yeah.
yeah. Last thing is that the data that we've got, when you do research, you're
Yeah.
really looking for two things. You're
Yes.
you're looking to map what doesn't change,
Yeah.
and to track what does change, right? So, if you go to a new country, the first thing you do is you map all the mountains and the forests and the rivers
Sure.
and everything. You create a
Yeah.
map.
Yes.
Then the next thing you do
Yeah.
is you then use that environment. So
Yeah.
you plant things, you
Yeah.
harvest things, you do all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
With
you
the
track.
intelligence. Yes.
Yeah, so you map what doesn't change and you track what does change.
Yeah.
So when we did those 50,000 surveys, we mapped what doesn't change. So we mapped the processes and activities of every business category across Australia, every sector. So that doesn't change. What lawyers
Yeah.
do today
Yeah.
is exactly what they did 600 years ago. They just automated most of the processes.
Sure.
So so processes and activities, basic processes and activities don't change.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day activities and actions, they do change.
Sure.
So you map and you
Yeah.
track. So
Yeah.
what we've done within the platform is we've
Yeah.
mapped what doesn't change.
Right.
So the platform's built on that understanding, and that gives us the ability then to track what does change.
Yeah.
So short
Yeah.
surveys,
Yeah.
inquiries, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
that just adds to the data set, and
Yeah.
it gives us the ability to really
Yeah. Yeah.
do what it is that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Do you have a pricing page for your
Yeah, we
services?
yeah
Yeah.
yeah we do.
Yeah.
If you go to account or about, then you can
Yeah.
see. I mean, we try and make as much free as we possibly can.
Sure.
And if people want to use the platform commercially, they can do
Yeah.
that. And then if people
Yeah.
want to, like
Yeah.
when we did the project with Austrade,
Yeah.
they wanted something specific for a country, and so
Yeah.
we did
Yeah.
some development specifically
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
deliver that.
Yeah.
So it's a
Wonderful.
very it's a very flexible platform. We can
Yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever anyone wants, really.
Very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
yeah. Thank you, John. Really appreciate your insights and all the valuable things that you've shared today. I think it's great that you have this implementation out there. It's just testament to getting it done rather than just sitting around and
Yeah,
just talking about it like a Q&A show. So yeah. So
that's it. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's why every time we've ever discussed the platform with anybody, people always
yeah,
said, this is great.
yeah,
Could you do this?
yeah,
So rather than just say yes,
yeah.
we just went off and did it, and then come back and said, "Is this what you meant?" And they say yes.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah,
as I say, the platform is a practical platform.
yeah,
It grows, it evolves in response to people's interest in terms of what it was. So rather than talk about it, we do it. That's the big difference, really. You know,
yeah, yeah. So
that
so
is the big.
yep. So to wrap it up, John.
Yep,
Uh, we circle back to the problem
yep,
of economic complexity. We are not economic complex. We have a productivity problem. We're just we're held hostage by our inactivity and inaction.
yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
And so we need to act. I mean, the reason we've started the event program in the diffusion section is every 2 months I'm going
yeah,
to update the content in that material.
yeah,
So that is the beginning of turbocharging knowledge diffusion.
yeah,
And knowledge diffusion, as the Productivity Commission said, is one of the best ways to increase and improve productivity in this country. Right. So this is about, through this program, this is a very practical,
yeah,
simple, straightforward way of increasing and improving productivity
yeah,
in Australia, right
yeah,
across the planet, right across
yeah,
the whole country.
yeah, yeah,
From the west coast to the east coast to the north
yeah,
and the south.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
practical, pragmatic, and
Mm,
you know,
absolutely.
and we're doing it basically.
Yeah. 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 Correct. If you, dear viewer, are watching this and you're a parent of a 11, year 11 or year 12 student, make sure you make myREGION.au your pit stop, and you can see, how knowledge diffusion can help your child get ahead with all these challenges in future. John Sheridan, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
Bye bye. Cheers.